Good old Jerry Salamander. You can always count on him to disenfranchise your opponents and to make it so that their vote doesn't matter. As of yesterday, the day before, depending on when this video comes out, the Golden State residents have passed Prop 50, which basically allows the legislature to straight up manipulate the hell out of the congressional districts and make it so that Republican voters are disenfranchised in the state. We're talking full-blown packing Republican voters into a small number of huge districts, making them completely uncompetitive and spreading out the rest of the Republican voters among the other districts, making it so that their vote doesn't matter because it's going to go Democrat no matter what. There just isn't enough of them in the other districts. Quick civics lesson. The House of Representatives is one half of the legislative branch of the United States government. They pass laws and they approve budgets and whatnot. Each state is granted a certain number of representatives depending on the size. The bigger the state, the more representative, the smaller number of representatives. California being a big fish, they get a huge number of representatives, both Democrat and Republicans because the state is varied. So each representative from the state of California doesn't actually represent the entire state. They only represent their one district in that state. Those maps are redrawn every 10 years after the census comes out, deciding on what's fair, and we're not going to get into what is or isn't fair, if it should be competitive, if it should represent certain groups. That's a whole can of worms. But suffice it to say, every 10 years they're redrawn, and it depends on what's going on. It's not normal for a state in the middle of the decade to redraw their maps to be partisan in this way. But the important thing to note here is California is only resorting to these partisan measures in response to Texas doing it first. Before this, California was actually one of the few states that had an independent commission free of political partisanship to draw and redraw the maps every decade. But Texas fired first because Trump, knowing he's unpopular, knowing the Republicans were probably going to lose the midterms really badly, called Texas Governor Greg Abbott and begged him to redistrict the map in the middle of the decade, which isn't normal, by the way, in order to make it so that Republicans get more seats in the House of Representatives than they would have otherwise. The important thing to note is that Republicans started this whole gerrymandering fiasco when a failing president called up a crony governor in the state of Texas in order to redraw their maps to disenfranchise Democrat voters in that state. They started this whole thing. With that said, I fully support Gavin Newsom and the state of California doing what they're doing to redress the balance that Texas messed up. You know, Democrats can either sit on the sidelines and watch as Republicans lie, cheat, and steal their way to the top, break every single law, break every single rule in the books, or they can get their hands dirty and live to fight another day. Hopefully someday all the states will have their own independent commissions that draw the maps in a competitive or fair way or whatever seems the best. But until that day, if Republicans are going to play dirty, then yeah, I am going to support Democrats redressing the balance somewhat. Maybe someday we can come together and make things better for everyone, but that's not today. So Godspeed, California, and may others follow suit in standing up to this bully.
Our current president and his administration is explicitly saying that we want to change the rules of the game midstream in order to insulate ourselves from the people's judgment. They want to change around the maps, not the way it's always been done every 10 years after a census. They want to do it before any election in which they're worried they might lose. They want to tinker around with it to see if they can give themselves an advantage. And it's brazen. They're not pretending that there's some other rationale to it. They're simply doing it because they think they can. And in those circumstances, I could not be more appreciative of the work that Governor Newsom and the people of California are doing and saying, stop. This is not how American democracy is supposed to operate.